and I realized something interesting. Don't be impressed by people who have a lot of followers, because a lot of followers is not the same as followers who take them seriously. Lamashal, if a guy gets up in shul and he stands up on a chair in the middle of learning and starts to take off his shirt and juggle, everyone's going to look at him and the kids will laugh and they'll point. So you can say the whole shul's looking at him, but nobody's taking him seriously. If anything, they're saying nebach. If anything, they're saying he's ridiculous. Okay, whatever he's drinking, I'm never going to let that into my house. That's what you're thinking when you see that. So just because there's eyeballs on a person, it was something I had to realize this myself. Like it took me a while to get to this point.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our next exciting edition of Agudah Live. My name is Avi Shnal, and I have the privilege to work as the New Jersey director for Agudath of America, and I am joined once again by my co-host, Rabbi Shai Markowitz of the Lefkowitz Leadership Initiative.
Thank you very much, Avi. It's great to be back here with you. It's been a while, and I'm looking forward to some amazing news about continuing this.
It has been a while since our last episode, and Shai, maybe we can tell our audience about the new upcoming developments and new initiatives that we're going to be embarking upon here at Agudah Live.
So our plan moving forward is really to take advantage of this model of communication, of engagement, and continue doing Agudah Lives where we talk about issues of the day, we talk about what's on your mind, we talk about what's on the mind of Klal, what's being spoken about, challenges that we're facing, almost like the Agudah convention throughout the year, almost like the old Jewish observer, and bringing it back in this way, where we get to hear from Gedolim, hear from the people who are in the field, and discuss items of the day, and hopefully continue this on a continuous basis.
There has been lots of talk since we began the Agudah Live concept of creating a podcast model of Agudah Live, and over the years it's been bounced back and forth, and Baruch Hashem, we have come to the point that we're going to actually be doing it, and this is going to be our first formal episode, so to speak. Media, technology, platforms, how the word gets out in today's Jewish scene, the frum scene, has evolved so much over the years. We need to evolve in how we get our message out. And in this upcoming episode, we're going to be joined by Rabbi Sruly Besser, a good friend of ours. What's the title of Rabbi Sruly Besser? How would you like the what?
How would I title
There's so many
Besser
things
now?
to him.
He's been a part of the media world in so many different ways. There's no way to say, hey, this is his title. Going back, he wrote for many magazines, for papers. He's an author.
Does he cross the dozen book market? Has he written a dozen books?
I think with the latest ones,
that's like a whole other, he's written dozens of books.
Yeah, I think for sure.
Could we say yet that he's written dozens of books? Almost.
Have a look. We'll have to find out.
But he's very close to it. His recent biography on Rav David Feinstein, and he wrote a now book on the Shloss, Tfilas HaShloss.
Right,
and he just keeps, he's a Ma'ayna Miskaber. That's the title, he's going to love that one.
That's
Ma'ayna Miskaber.
Right.
And we're going to be joined by him discussing this evolution of media and platforms and the challenges and how we have to evolve as a community, as a tzibur, around that evolution.
And also, I think what we should and we will bring up the topic of the challenges with the open market of media and the ability to have every person be a spokesperson, every person to give a daya, the challenges that we as the klal, both as understanding hashkafa, understanding what we're absorbing, what the challenges that come with that, and how we have to deal with that as an individual and as a community.
It's going to be an exciting episode. It's going to be an exciting new initiative, not just this episode, but the future episodes. And we reach out to all of you. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for this episode. And we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what people are interested in hearing about. You may have topics that you're discussing around your Shabbos table, around the Shabbos Shudas table in Shul, around wherever it may be, and you're hearing discussions. Reach out to us. We have an email address.
info@agudahlive.com.
info@agudahlive.com
is a place where you can share with us your comments, your thoughts, what you want to hear about, or even just like editors, readers write. Tell us what your comments are on the sessions that we had, and also agudahlive.com itself will be posting audios and the videos of these episodes moving forward.
So here we are as we continue this amazing conversation. First of all, Rabbi Besser, Sruly Besser. By the way, I may mix up sometime. The Rabbi Sruly Besser, you'll be meichel me, please, from the get-go.
Of how many rabbis and how many
and you know, I'm
sure
sure
we have a long future together, Avi. They'll be
I'm sure you'll have your moments. This title, by the way, when we advertised this podcast, it said Avi and Shai, and I was like, okay, that's it. Smicha is gone. Avi and Shai. Now Shai actually wrote Svarim. He's a mechaber Svarim, so for you, it's a big loss. But okay, but Rabbi Besser, I'm Magashir, right. So it's a little bit of a complication, but Rabbi Besser, here we are. And thank you so much for joining us today. I know you are, Baruch Hashem, very busy. I can only imagine.
Is this an episode? Is this the beginning of something amazing, Mr.
This is the beginning of something huge.
You are part of
the Artscroll. Well, better than in history.
But I
they
think
say
that
Kol HaSchal is cautious, but we'll figure this one out.
Right, but this is more like the beginning of a Zman. You know, whenever a new Zman starts, it starts with a bang. So our Zman in this Agudah Live, podcast, whatever we're going to call it, is starting to go for the bang. That's just how it goes.
I'm a tremendous first day of Zman guy myself.
You like the Psicha share. This is the Psicha share.
Peak early. I have notebooks that have a lot of Torah on Beis and Aleph from the whole Shas. It's a little slower.
I thought just because the
safer on that pace.
I just thought because you went to yeshivas that's what they did. They joke about different yeshivas learn very slow. So I thought that was the yeshiva you went to.
We should call it. There should be a thing called Daf Beis. Daf Beis at all the yeshivas from Masechtas.
Any of the yeshivas from Masechtas.
Any of the yeshivas from Masechtas, Daf Beis. But getting back to our topic of conversation that we're discussing here today is that Baruch Hashem, we see that the world has evolved. And many people are going to be listening to the show, watching the show, wondering why is Agudath Yisrael, why are Avi and Shai spending their time and energy and resources into making this show, discussing current events, write a letter, write an advertisement, make a newspaper, bring back the Jewish Observer, write the coalition, all the other things that we're dating ourselves. The coalition, so you remember the coalition? The coalition, sure. You remember it? I have some copies of the coalition in my house though, by the way.
You should just know the coalition. The coalition is being uploaded, as Jewish Observers are already, to our archive website. At the archives, yes. So there are many different mediums in how to get our word out on different platforms. Why are we sitting here, in Rahway Artscroll beautiful studios and having this conversation with you and spending the time? But I think this is part of the conversation. What are we doing? Where has Klal Yisrael evolved over the last decades in platforms? We do Agudah Live, and it's online, and it's on the internet, and 20, 30 years ago, that didn't exist. No one had that 20, 30 years ago. And today they do have that. Where do you, as a person in your position, as a guy that's intricately involved in social media, different platforms, the written media, the social media, the video media, where do you see how things are evolving and why it's important that we're doing this kind of new what's the right word? New initiative?
New initiative in what we're doing over here. Thank you, Shai.
See, I know it was valuable.
I was looking for a different word, but that's good enough.
Thank you very much.
Initiative is a tremendous Agudah word. He has that in his Agudah starter pack. Yeah, it's a word that you have to know.
It's like juxtaposition from the
Artscroll, right?
There's a couple of Latin ones. If you read coalition, I never knew how to say it. Rabbi Shara, Rabbi Zubel, Yibad L'Chai filed amicus?
Amicus brief.
Amicus brief.
It's the different words you pick up from reading Agudah publications. In brackets, friend of the court, right?
Right.
Friend of the court, very good. Very good.
I'm happy to see that you are an avid reader even of our current emails and information.
Of course. Can I say a word in under 30 seconds?
Sure.
Very, very much in what you just said, Avi. When the Mashkiach Shlita, Matisyahu Salman, came to Lakewood. So I was there his first year. He was new. It was like a new type of thing. It was a new type of idea. His opening shmooze was like Malchus. Yeshiva. It was a big thing. And he came and he said a shmooze. What he said over from Chaskel that Parsha, Yana Diyama actually, Ba'aloischa. So the Gemara says in Menachos that all the Klei HaMikdash were buried. They were lo'ilim. Every one of the Klei HaMikdash was Kaddish, was holy forever and ever, eternally. The Chatzaitzvus, on the other hand, were Nignaz. They were buried. So he asked why. So he basically what he said in one line was Torah beitzach nicht. Torah never changes. Aber his is beitzach. The way you reach the people, the clarion call for each generation is going to be different. So Moshe Rabbeinu's Chatzaitzvus can reach the dar of Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's not going to reach the dar of Yeshua, and so on and so forth. So every manig in every generation, the one who has to reach the people has to bury the Chatzaitzvus when his time is over, because there's a new trumpet the herald,
the trumpet,
and that's going to reach the new people. That's very, very much what you're bringing up. I don't think anything changed. I don't think Agudath Yisrael was founded, as you well know, in 1912. Nothing really changed. It was always very, very much about having a medium where Agudath Yisrael is built as sort of a triangle, where there's Das Torah of Gedolei Torah at the top, who discuss this. There's people like yourself, both of you, who are out there in the trenches dealing with whatever the issues are, if they're education, if they're legislative, if they're dealing with people. Whatever you're dealing with in your day jobs, you're bringing it to them. And then you're filtering down their ideas and trying to bring it to the people in the way that works best. There's no question that communication evolved and that media evolved and that the way you reach the people evolved. The Torah world in particular has been dancing a very delicate, slow dance, a balancing act, a tightrope between being what you'd call relevant, trying to reach the people, and still holding on very tightly to the safeguards which define our homes, our schools, what we allow in and what we don't allow in. Agudath has done a remarkable job of being able to keep it relevant and keep it fresh and keep it vibrant, and at the same time stay true to who you are. So I just think that this is the next front year, and you're in that mission of bringing the stuff you guys are dealing with to the people and be able to talk in real time about those issues. And I just want to add one zach. I'm mitzdaref to your mecha that both of you really deserve the rabbi before your name. Shai as a mechabas farm, you as a magachir. But I think that it serves the purposes better not to have rabbis before your name for what you're trying to do. Because a rabbi before your name means, okay, it's another unapproachable thing for me. Okay, the rabbi's in a talk, and then I'm going to see a paper in my mailbox or on the bulletin board show. But I want to understand it in real time, in my language. What you're doing is you're taking off your rabbi hats, Baruch Hashem, and you're sitting here like regular guys, so to speak, like the regular guys by Shal Shudas or at Kiddush and Shul, or women sitting around talking about things. Why? How come? How does this happen? How does this work? And you're going to be able to create, Be'ez Hashem B'siyata D'Shmaya, I have tremendous confidence in both of you, because you're both normal people and you're both great communicators. You're going to be able to talk about the ideas, not always have answers, but at least talk about the ideas and the topics in a way that they can relate to and find interesting.
Amen. This is our trumpets.
Thank
We're blowing the trumpet, Shai.
That's true.
It's your time.
The
We're blowing
Chinuch
the trumpets.
talks about that exactly idea. That brings down this halacha. That halacha of the chatzos are only for each siman. That's why the pasuk says it's for Moshe Rabbeinu.
I never heard this before.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's a fascinating part. This mamish what we're doing, and it's Parshas Ba'aloischa, which is this.
Yeah,
Week's Parsha.
I heard it.
Go ahead.
I heard it. I remember hearing it in a chinuch shmuz. I wonder who told it to me, but I heard that idea. It was in a chinuch shmuz when you're giving shiurim or anything over to a rebbe as a rebbe.
Well, he just said it, so it's from Matis Yosef. By the
Opening shmuz.
I heard it from.
Matis Yosef, the first of what would become hundreds, maybe thousands of shmuz, and they gave this was his opening shmuz. It's just very telling.
It's a beautiful,
and how he walked.
So we're using it for our opening, Agudah podcast episode, where we're sort of Tayr Beitzach nicht.
So let me ask you a question. In going back to, we're talking about the coalition or Jewish Observer, what lessons of the model of the way they dealt with issues that Klal Yisrael were talking about can we apply nowadays? The Jewish Observer, as I understood it, they had articles. There was a theme. People, there was always a message from, I think, an Adam Gadol or a professional. How can we take lessons from any of those things and apply it now to this year, to our lifestyle?
So, forgive the answer. I don't know if it's what you want or what you're expecting. I think you can't. I think that one of the ways media changed is that the consumer of media changed a lot. What happened is there was a time, nothing to do with Jewish media, secular media as well, Havdel, where people told the readers something. They didn't really have an agenda, by and large, and really based on what newspaper you were reading every day. That's how you voted in elections. It was basically where you were getting your news. And people didn't expect to be privy to the back end of things. What happened pretty much with the explosion of technology, the internet age, is that people got used to knowing what's really going on. In real time, there's going to be 100 people telling you real stories. You watch the Haredi politicians in Israel adapt, and it's fascinating to me at least. I very much enjoy the older politicians didn't really get this. So they'll have like a young guy, he's a 19-year-old guy, he was in yeshiva 2 weeks ago, and now he's a reporter because he has a phone and maybe a tape recorder. That's his credentials, and he's asking him, I don't understand. You said you're not voting this way, and you voted that way. The older politicians will look at him like, am I at a press conference? Did I say I'm doing press availability now? Bechlal, who are you to be asking me questions? We didn't agree to an interview. And you look at some of the younger Chavei Knesset, particularly in the front parties, but it's true for all the parties, who get this, and they understand that he's just as powerful, maybe more powerful, you can't say things anymore. So you'll have an event. There was a rally for one of the political parties in Eretz Yisrael, by the last elections, and one of the big figures didn't come. So they put out a statement, and they said he's not feeling well. He had to go. excuse me, he had to go for emergency medical thing. He's in Hadassah doing bidikot. That was the statement. Some of the younger, more renegade reporters had a video of this guy not in Hadassah, not getting bidikot. Where he was isn't relevant, but completely contradicting. And the older figures in the party were struggling to say, so all that they can come up with is, yeah, mechutzaf. You're mechutzaf that you released that. He's not a mechutzaf. He's doing his
That's
job.
not a good strategy. Yeah, that's not a good strategy.
Haredi press that did this, no. But
Right.
again, if you want my vote, then whatever the reasons are, they can do that in Eretz Yisrael. But the younger ones were much sharper, and they were much more able to deal with it. And the guy said something along the lines of, the press release was made before, Taka wasn't feeling well, Baruch Shem Yad Nisim, he went to Karistir in between, he's all that, whatever the stories they said, whatever people say. But it's fascinating to watch. I think that what the Jewish Observer and Coalition did, you don't have that luxury anymore. Because people have their own opinions even before you open your mouth on anything. So you're going to have a topic, and they're going to say, why didn't Agudah, let's take a mashal that isn't relevant. Why didn't Agudah issue a statement on COVID on April 1st? Why did you wait till April 5th? Let's just say, the Rebbe Shalom holds Allah Apitin, we should never have to deal with things like that again, okay?
Amen.
But that type
Amen.
of thing. Why didn't Agudah? In the old days, they're waiting patiently for you to tell us why didn't Agudah. And then you'll tell them, they say, oh, okay, very nice. It's over. Because they already have 15 opinions that they already said to their friends. Oh, I know, because this Gadol, anyhow, and I learned by this Rashiv, and I know what he holds. And the other one says, no, that's not the reason. So you don't have that luxury anymore of telling people things that they're going to believe you. There's a built-in cynicism.
I would tell you, you think that this is, you're making a joke. Mamish, yesterday I was talking to someone about COVID, about Agudah's response to COVID, and he was telling me...
People are still asking you about Agudah's response about COVID?
Because it came up in a different chat about Amunas Chachamim, and he was questioning, but I know this Gadol said this, why did Agudah come out with this? Mamish, and how does he know the inside scoop? Because that's what it is now. Every person says they heard from someone else what this Gadol said.
Everybody has access. A lot of the people, anybody who's able to watch this, ostensibly this is not their only technological, so whatever the reasons or haterim are, they have access to other information as well. It's like by the Eitz Hadas and Vatipakach Meinam, people see things. So your job is much harder, honestly, in a way, than any other media, Agudah media in history, because you have, like I said, you have the built-in, not only built-in resistance, people know things. You can't tell them things anymore. What you have to do is give them something more, but you're up to the task. Like I said, I know both of you very well, and I am entirely confident that you'll be successful for two reasons. One is, you're also normal people. You're also the people at Shalosh Sodas who are sitting and having these conversations. You're approachable people. So, the day you stop listening to people, then you have a problem. That means the day you close your ears to what the people around you are telling you, you have a problem. Both of you, like I said, I haven't known you to have that problem. And then you also have what you do have is an advantage that you're sitting on site, either to go to headquarters, Bapayel, or within the Agudah network, however it is, and you do have access to Gedalim in a way that others don't into the conversations that they're having, and you're able to help articulate what you're seeing. But you have it much harder. If you want to know what lessons you could learn, it's really almost nothing. The only lesson you can learn is to be proud of who you are and true to who you are, and not to apologize and not to be chaynef. That Agudah did very well all the years. To have a very strong message and not back, because there's always going to be people either to the right or left who are disappointed in something you say. Every time. If you're going to say something in public, then people are going to disagree. Then you put on your big boy pants and deal with it.
I want to jump into that and really say that because the world does want to engage and want to be part of the conversation, I would open up that we have created an email address. I think it's called info@agudalive.com, and people should send in their questions, put their comments.
And comments and ideas. You want to have the ideas.
Because I think, like you're saying, it's very important that this is just like it's a conversation between us here and you, Sruly. It should be a conversation with the Klal also, and both to hear topics that they want to talk about, topics that they want to hear about, and also questions and comments, because what we're going to be talking about will always be, at that point, one person, one side, if you want to call it. We're willing to be corrected and think things through differently, but also there are other sides to the coin. So that we do have this email address, info@agudalive.com, where we'd love to hear from people all these ideas, their questions, their comments, and their thoughts.
And compliments and criticisms.
Yes, compliments and criticisms.
Of course. Sure. But so I'll tell you this, it's a very, I'm not arguing with you, it's a very real thing that you're saying. I happen to believe that it's a little bit sad. I'll tell you why I think it's sad. That this is the reality, and it may be the reality, we have to embrace the reality, but it's a scary point because of the thing you're saying of having this fast access to people and media and people being able to say things. And the Jewish Observer, for example, just arguments or any print media, you had to be able to publish a magazine. Not everyone had the ability to just publish a magazine. It costed money. It still costs money. And you had to have a place to do it. Today, because of social media, anybody with a smartphone could create a WhatsApp status, and you can have thousands of followers, and now you became a bar achi, and a bar plucked, and a bar deya, and people actually listen to it. So it's not just that it's that people have access, it's that anybody today has access, and you have a whole tsunami of people that are not necessarily within the right framework and hashkafa and are on the right page and know all the ins and outs, and they have platforms, and people have massive platforms today.
There's no bar. There's no bar of entry. Just anybody who wants, who has a cell phone.
You have a cell phone, a link. You send it around, then you're good to go.
As long as you're giving them content that people want to hear about, and sometimes that might be the problem because you're going to give them content that is controversial. It's not clear just because you want to build up your followers, as opposed to the print media in and of itself was often something that was vetted, was reviewed before it went to print. As opposed to right now, I think what you're saying is that it doesn't take that.
No, not at all. Anyone can do it. It goes immediately. There was an event, a couple of days ago. Massive event. Massive, beautiful Kiddush Hashem. Unbelievable. But I've heard people that had negative what the same, and thousands of people can hear that negativity. Thousands.
All it takes is one
All
person.
it is one guy with his one status that has a following. Boom.
And he's something that maybe could be menachem you a little bit on this prat. I actually run a status, a WhatsApp status, a pretty big one with a pretty big following. And
What's the name of your status?
It's called MKY. I would love to
MKY.
discuss it with you. It doesn't have to be now. It stands for Mika Amchi Yisrael. That pretty much sums up what we're trying to do with it.
I happen to love it, by the way. It happens to be. I'm going to give you a plug over here. It happens to be awesome. I really like it.
The plug. I wasn't counting on it.
And it really is.
I'm saying the number.
It
grab this opportunity.
No, it really is. It really is amazing. It's amazing. I love it.
3444. 845.
Say it again.
845 to sign up. 330-3444. I'll just use it as an example. So it's a WhatsApp status where that tells you the whole story. That's the agenda. That's the bar of entry. That's the stories we're sharing. Why we felt in the world, in the contemporary landscape of Haredi media was necessary. We could talk about it, yes or no. It's up to you. But I want to just make a point. I realized one day when you're trying to build up a status, early on especially, there were numbers we had to reach: 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. There's numbers you want to get to, and you hear that that's called a real status. And Baruch Hashem, as we were working, you want to get followers, and then you have stories that you know will get you followers, but they're beneath you. And I can't tell you that only the Baruch Hashem knows if we were ever been the same, but I have a Rebbe, and I talk to my Rebbe frequently, and I try to ask even this type of thing, and I show him the thing. And Baruch Hashem, me and my partners listened to our Rebbe about this, and I realized something interesting. Don't be impressed by people who have a lot of followers, because a lot of followers is not the same as followers who take them seriously. Lamashal, if a guy gets up in shul, and he stands up on a chair in the middle of learning and starts to take off his shirt and juggle, everyone's going to look at him, and the kids will laugh and they'll point. So you can say the whole shul's looking at him, but nobody's taking him seriously. If anything, they're saying nebach. If everything, they're saying he's ridiculous. Okay, whatever he's drinking, I'm never going to let that into my house. That's what you're thinking when you see that. So just because there's eyeballs on a person, it was something I had to realize this myself. Like it took me a while to get to this point. Just because people are looking at somebody, and just because people are saying, "Wow," it doesn't mean that they're successful. If anything, it might mean that they're not successful. That means people are clicking, and maybe they could sell ads because they have the eyeballs. I'm not saying yes or no, but we never gauge success by eyeballs and ads. We only gauge success by if you can make a difference, if you can impact. So I realized, myself and my partners helped me with this. It's better to lose followers and know that when you say something, people will take you seriously. To be heard is worth a lot more than to be seen by a lot of people. You want to be respected. You want to be respected much more than you want people to be. So there's from clickbait. There's no doubt about it that there's from websites and statuses that are clickbait. But you're not going to do that because you're Agudath Yisrael of America. That's what you could learn from your predecessors in Agudath publications and Agudath print media. That, like I said, be strong who you are, and it's much better to have a relevant, engaged, impressionable, serious fan base, following, following, much more than to have more people who are not even engaged. They're just randomly, aimlessly, mindlessly clicking, and it doesn't mean anything.
But I think because of the reality of the abundance of platforms and abundance of people, it behooves us, that's a good Artscroll word, it behooves us to make sure that we are at least providing on the same level a platform to discuss what's happening today through the eyes of those that have hashkafa, that are b'nei Torah, that went durch the sugya with a Torah cook, and see that this is how Torah views something. I give you, without talking too much into details, because it's probably a whole different episode that we'll talk about one day. It gets time for elections. You mentioned Artscroll. We have it in America also. Comes time for election, there's a lot of feelings and thoughts and dayas and shitas, not talking about any one particular election. And the challenge is that till now, in Agudath Yisrael, even though we don't endorse candidates or whatever it may be, but because we're a 501c3, we're not allowed to, good. But to discuss topics, if we wanted to sit down with a Rosh Yeshiva or a Rav, we're limited in how to wait till the next Jewish Observer column comes out. We missed it already. Wait till the next print media comes out. Even a website, it's a story. There's no give and take where you could ask questions, challenge the question, challenge the answers, dissect it, understand it, go through the sugya well, and then we're stuck because what are we going to do? We're going to talk to the guy in shul. We'll have to go to 100 shuls to be able to counter one guy's status.
Yeah, but that was the model of both the convention, but specifically the session. There was a well-known session at the Agudah convention where it's based on the fact that there's going to be a discussion with Das Torah. I don't know if you know about. There's a session called Asking for a Friend. It's a highlight of the convention for me that I heard about, and it's Thursday night. And the concept behind it was this idea: is that let's take a conversation.
One time a year that Rabbi Shai Markowitz makes me wear a tie, and this is a macha. My dress code today is a macha, and what you do to me with that thing.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll accept it. But that was the idea. But I want to go back to Sul. You did mention, what made you think of the need of the MKY status? What was the cause of that? What was the impetus? Because
I was watching From Media. I was engaged in From Media for pretty much a lot of years. Come out, about 20 years, I would say, a significant amount of time. And I watched evolution from the very beginning of the internet onto websites, and then statuses. There was social media. The From community had a brief flirtation with Twitter or Facebook. It didn't really work very much, thankfully. Most From people went back to WhatsApp statuses. They felt safer over there than they did in the wider. Instagram has come out not even a relevant thing to many or most people in From media. It's not our space. It's not a place where you could control. I'm not a Rav. Everybody should figure this out with their own people. That was just my take. And I felt that there was a message that was coming forth that you could look at not all, but some of the From websites, and you could wake up in the morning and go to sleep at night, and all you know about the From community is that there's swastikas on a building near your school, that there was a couple of Hasidim who are being arrested. They're being indicted now. They're having a hearing now because they misused security funding for the schools, that anti-Semitism has never been higher, mamish ever, that another From group, either to the right or left of me, depending on the website's agenda and mood that day and what they had for breakfast, either is guilty of bizu kavod Torah or fakeret, whatever little hashkafas are. It was just a very negative and depressing diet to live on. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a purpose to be served. If somebody moves into your neighborhood and they are a predator, and a website gets up and says, this person is a known predator, then they're doing a big service. I'm not saying that every negative message doesn't have a tail. Sometimes it's important to tell things. But because of other cheshbainis maybe, or maybe the people who were running it just felt that there was a tailist. I'm not judging. Again, not every website and not every day. There was nobody telling the truth about From life. And the regular truth of From life, no one was celebrating. Just, Mikam Chizol was a cute word. We make fun of it. It was the kind of thing people wrote a letter to the Ated that I lost my rig in the pizza shop and all the Bacham took out they helped at the garbage. Mikam Chizol, right? But Mikam Chizol is the truth. Mikam Chizol doesn't only mean when Jews do Chaverim. Now the style is Hatzalah to save Gayim on airplanes. That's been the last 6 months. I think every Hatzalah guy who ever went on a plane ended up saving a guy from a heart attack.
Are they staged, by the way? I'm convinced that they're staged, by the way. At this point in the game,
sure that the guys are going on ready to play ball. That's
totally staged. They're totally
with
staged.
The jackets, they're ready to go. Hello, you're flying.
Hatzalah guys never flew with their vests. Never.
Jacket?
Never.
They're ready to go. But Mikam Chizol doesn't only mean that. There's the Kiddush Hashem of living like a Yid. There's the Kiddush Hashem of a Bacher sitting by a dentist's office with the Black Gemara. There's the Kiddush Hashem of just the regular things that people do. The decisions that Yidden make a million times a day that we take for granted. Yidden at a Chal trip is it a Kiddush Hashem or a Chal Hashem? That's not the point. The point is it reminds you a million times a day what it means to be a Yid. Every Yid you know, every person in your network, man or lady, is living on a different plane and planet and plateau than the Ummah Yisraelim around them. They're busy with different things. Their head is engaged in different things. From the afternoon, they're thinking when Shkia, for whatever the reasons are that halacha dictates. They're thinking, should I wash now for bread? And then I'm going to have to. Yidden are different. Yidden are just living. And no one's telling the stories of somebody sent in a picture. Last night there was a Direi HaTorah celebration. So I was thinking how we're going to tell the story. Because everybody sees the same clips of the dancing, which is beautiful. And it's not only beautiful, it's therapeutic to see 20,000 Yidden dancing Ashrei Matayv Chalkenu. But how do you tell the story in a way that I wanted to? To me, what was beautiful is somebody showed how somebody had brought plastic washing cups to all the bathrooms before because of halacha reasons. You didn't like to have to wash from a keli. You can't just wash to b'diavad to wash your hands. Someone goes to the washroom with a washing to eat. You have to wash with a cup, and not just with a used Diet Coke bottle, which is a real cup. So someone thought that way. That to me is MKY. That's the stories I want to spend my life telling because it just reminds you that we live differently, we think differently. You realize how much consideration for other people goes into every single thing we do. There's certain things. Today, now I know from MKY because we get it every single week. But because people, when you're exposed to a diet, let me just make this point, then you become like that also. So people write to us all the time. I was in the grocery store and a person was there and their credit card, I don't know if you've ever experienced it. I have. You've been in the card and your card's declined when you're paying for your groceries. You should never have to do it. I lived in Kail. I was a warrior of Torah myself for years, and there were times that it happened. You bought more than you thought. You thought you had it wasn't a credit card, it was a debit card. You had a certain amount in the account, and it gets declined. And Baruch Hashem, I told my older kids, Al Kapanim, that I gave you self-esteem. You learned how to smile and say, okay, it's not a big deal, we'll figure it out. But sometimes it could be uncomfortable. I think today, at least the MKY following, in a second says, I got this. Don't worry about it. It's quiet, it's like, hey, you'll figure it after, you won't figure it out after. I gave you $50, it's not a big deal. Jews just live that way. It's a davar pashut. You hear this, it's a davar pashut. If you saw someone who's, the cashier looks up a little uncomfortable and like no one knows what to say, today, you're standing behind the line. Of course, I got this, right?
And then you take a picture and send it to you.
Right, they're making the MKY moment.
So we get a lot of, we get feedback about this, negative feedback. People say you're losing the tznius of a mitzvah. That means a guy goes to a chasna, he needs to do his daf, so he goes to a side room to learn, and you just made him what you had to do that. So that's a good point. So we stopped pretty much doing single people learning. If it's a daf yomi share at a chasna, that's a public thing that I would share that already. But a guy learning alone in the airport, I think I wouldn't do it anymore because you're right. People deserve to have Elam Haba and not lose everything because everybody saw it. Unless there's a tayalas or the person themselves says, I'm okay if you do it because they realize there's a tayalas in it. I myself, I never took a Gemara to chasna. Lately, I can't tell you to go to every chasna, but if it's a chasna where I know that I'm not needed to be but I'm there either because my wife wants to be there for longer or because whatever the reasons are, I'll take a Gemara because of MKY. There's enough to do. Otherwise, in the old days, I would have been looking at WhatsApp statuses, right? Yeah. It just filters in that message of that what Yidden are, the joy of being part of every single Yid I'm talking about. I'm not talking about any community or any demographic. That means you don't have to be a Lubavitcher Chassid. You could even have issues with the Hashkafa of Lubavitcher Chassidim, but you can't not stop sometimes and say, wow, look at the dedication of these people, that they're ready to give up their lives to save another neshama. Even that's not what you're Rebbeim told. And from Lubavitcher Chassid, I tell them the same thing. I say, you can't not be amazed of somebody whose dedication to the Blat Gemara is such that he doesn't see or hear anything. Whatever. We could learn to appreciate all those things. Okay, sorry.
Yisrael asher b'chas be'er. Remember, that's like who we are, Mikam Chisal.
We're getting in all the old Agudah convention lines about
that.
that.
Just be happy for the Rebbeinu Shalom that he has such people who do this all day, every day. The stuckers that go on, the things that people could leave things in public places and take it for granted that it'll be the one that come back. We're holding over 3,000 years after Har Sinai, after we became a Mamlechas Kohanim. You see it.
Right, but I think going back to the cause of this, and I think what you see that from WhatsApp statuses and from the world of media that we have right now, it's living in real time. That's really the lesson I'm taking. That's what I'm learning is that Klal Yisrael is living in real time, and the print media has tremendous value, but there's an added value when there's an opportunity to be real time, have conversations in real time, and nothing is hidden. It's discussed openly.
And there's the ability to have a conversation about it.
Right.
I mean, print media, I love print media, by the way.
You'll notice that I think if you don't,
we love print media, and we support print media, and they play a huge, crucial role in our tzibur. But there's another role that today people want more than just the after fact. Print media is used. How many drafts when you write an article for whatever publication it may be, how many siftings does it go through till the final final product?
Sully's a pro, so it doesn't have to do.
No, he does.
I'm not saying I'm a pro or not, but you could be sure that the pros go through more drafts, not less drafts. That's
right.
They're not pros because they work faster. But you need print media for two reasons. First of all, people don't have time to consume media, except it ends up being Shabbos and Yantif. That's really when they have time to go in depth. And also, there's a certain depth that you're never going to get from a conversation that you'll get in a real well done, especially if it's maybe on a political issue of the day. But we're dealing with a hashkafa issue, and somebody like you mentioned, whoever, Rabbi Lapiansky, has an opportunity to write out his things. You're never going to get that in a quick conversation.
No.
And you're able to digest it, and but there's definitely a need for what you're saying. Like you're saying, real-time reaction. News happens so fast. This morning's story is not tonight's story anymore, for sure.
And more than just news, I think this gives an opportunity to talk about topics that are on people's minds. So it's not always going to be news-based, but topics that are important to people to have a further discussion about it. And going back to the print media, even in the print media, they say the most often read part of the print media are the readers' right conversations when they go back and forth on that. So yeah, there is an article that opens the conversation, but then even nowadays, people want to talk back and forth, and the comment section is something very important even in the print media.
I think as with society, also society changed. We're no longer sheepish. Sheepish is a real word, by the way. We're no longer sheepish that we just take something at face value and say, okay, this is what it is, this is what I do. People want to challenge the status quo. People naturally challenge what is told to them. And by having a conversation, I'm not saying that we're going to resolve all the problems, but at least we're able to bring up the questions and challenges that people have with whatever's being done or spoken about or being talked about. And it's a different world. It's a different world today. And we're here to meet that challenge. B'siyata d'shmaya.
And we're looking forward to continuing and to really, not continuing, to building off of this and bringing out this opportunity to Klal Yisrael to engage with Agudah and to engage with Gedolim and talk about
and the
topics.
Tzibur and Klal Yisrael and every single person out there. Thank you, Sruly, for joining us.
It's such a pleasure to be part of this. And like I said, I have tremendous confidence that B'siyata d'shmaya, you're succeeding, you're the right people at the right time. I think as open as you're going to be to hearing from the people, that's how successful you're going to be. It's not just saying we have an email address, but answering the emails yourselves if you could, and engaging the conversation, and maybe even having the guts to let people write emails while you're on the air with somebody and send them their questions or send them their comments while you're actually recording the segment. I don't know if you're going to record live or it's going to go out a little later, so I don't know how realistic it is, but at least to open the next segment, the next episode, by reading some of those points and discussing them on air. That means you don't have to react on the spot, but at least be open to let people communicate. And as much as you make yourself approachable, that's how much people are going to trust you.
Sruly, thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Sruly, thank you very much.
Gentlemen.
Have yourself a great
Rabbi
day.
Markowitz and Rabbi Schnall, thank you for having me. I look forward to listening and watching.